everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Keys. I'm your host, Jamila Bell, everyone's favorite realtor. And this episode is going to be about women empowerment. And we're talking to all the leading ladies. This show is all about unlocking the keys to life, business, and beyond. Today, I'm talking with women who aren't just opening doors, they're kicking them wide open.
I hype me up, I gas me up, I hype me up, I gas me up, I hype me up, I gas me up. Take up spaces, got my room with this. Take up spaces, I got my room with this. I'm a trip for this, they cannot resist. The space is on the abyss. Take up spaces. I hype me up, I gas me up, I hype me up, I gas me up, I hype me up, I gas me up.
Today's guest is all about leadership and lifting people higher. She doesn't just talk the talk, she lives it. She's the CEO of Chief of Minds, the powerhouse herself, Miss Lakeisha Robichaux.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Hey.
Hello.
All right, so I want it to be fun and be natural, so we're going to get into the questions, okay, and have fun with it.
All right, let's go.
What's one workplace change that could instantly improve equality for women?
So one workplace change that can instantly improve equality, I would say let me say two.
Okay.
Two. So the first one I would say, honestly, is around compensation. Because although we may have a lot of women in leadership roles, there's not a lot of transparency around compensation. And the data shows that a lot of women actually are not paid at the same level as their male counterparts. So if we had more of that, then we'll have more equality, and data is going to drive that. So when leaders make the decisions on, promotions, when they make the decisions on the incentives that they're going to give when it's time for performance reviews and things like that, let's look at the data so we can see what does equality look like. Yes, it should be performance driven, but just oftentimes it's not just on performance. Oftentimes it's on who and they've already got a position there. So looking at the data around compensation can definitely drive that equality. On the other side, and I know this may sound kind of different than what most people say, I would say equality also around when we look at lead. We know that, traditionally women, they hold the role of trying to make sure that they have their career on the professional side, but also being the caregiver for their children, for their parents, and other people. If there was equality around also the leave that males are given, because they are expected to, if you have a child or something like that, if you have a parent, that the wife, will stay at home with the child, or the wife will take it. And although, mother, and because I'm a mother, I have two boys, I love them. I'm a mama bear, I tell everybody that, and I'm going to spend my time with them. But having the male counterpart, the husband, or that partner being able to do that too. So that way it's balancing. So mom does not have to choose, whether do I want to, continue my career because I may get looked down on if I need to take a certain amount of leave. Allowing the father also to be able to take extended leave as well. So that way it can be balanced. Let me do 6 weeks, you do 6 weeks, or let me do 12 weeks, whatever that may look like. But having a balance, that can also increase the equality inside of the workplace.
Are you noticing that more men have taken advantage of that, or we hadn't moved to that yet?
So we're seeing an uptick in it, but not all the way, because some employers are not friendly with it, although it's there in most organizations, but it's often looked down on. Why do you need to take so much time? Where's your wife? If the child gets sick, okay, well then did you call your wife? For a male to do that, have to do that, it is oftentimes frowned upon. And so we need to be more open. Employers need to be more open to give that wife, or the partner, that female partner, an opportunity, to gain some of that stability as well, like the males having, and decrease that expectation for males, and allow the wife to be able to have that stabilization also.
Awesome. That's a great point. All right. So next question. How do you coach leaders to recognize and fix biases in the workplace?
Oh, that's a good question. Again, it goes back to data. When we say fixing bias, we need to go to data and really look, because we're talking about promotions. Again, we're talking about the leave. We're talking about pay. If we look at data, and we look at, a lot of times what I tell leaders, let's go back and let's see, numbers don't lie. So let's pull the demographics and let's see how many leaders or just individuals in general have gotten promotions this year. How many have gotten increases? What are the percentages of that? And let's compare that to also the evaluation of rating that they receive. Oftentimes you'll see a bias in there. that the males are actually receiving the higher they're getting promoted more or faster, that their increases are larger. And it doesn't always equate to what the performance side of it, the rating is. And so data doesn't lie. And so I tell them, okay, before let's look and see, is there equality? Why is there a bias towards that? Let's dig deeper. Let's do some research. Let's ask questions. Because a lot of times it's not the leaders, well, the CEOs are sometimes, most of the time we're having a conversation with, but let's look at some leadership development to dig deeper, and let's look at some data to see, why is this happening? How are the leaders of those departments or managers, how are they rating the employees? What are they making the decisions on the promotions? Let's see. Let's get them in a room. Let's have a roundtable discussion. Let's interview with different staff so we can get a diverse look, or equality look, and inclusive look at, what does this look like? Do they really have the skills, the qualifications, the experience? And then we can dig deeper and reduce some of that bias, because it's not always just here. Oftentimes that comes from the front line, as you go into the departments, and it's sometimes they don't even know it. They're not even thinking about it, but we need to bring it to the front of the table so that what they do, and we can push for that equality.
Okay. Are you noticing that sometimes women are getting viewed on or graded on them having to take off early to go pick a sick child up, or is something like that happening, and that's what they're rating them on?
Oh, absolutely. So, sometimes when you had to take off so many days because your child was sick, or even honestly, if it's vacation, if they just need some time, they need a mental health day. You've taken these mental health days, but that's because oftentimes, again, it is the female that's the caregiver. So she's taking on time, and that is being looked at negatively, so really drilling down to what are the reasons why, they're doing it. That's a good question, Checks, because honestly, one of the reasons when I started my firm, I said that I did not want any mothers that work for me. I did not want them to have to choose between their career and their child. If there's a play, you better be at that play. I want to make sure, like, if your child is sick, go take care of your child. I want you to be there for your child, because I remember going through corporate America and like, oh my goodness, my child is sick. I'm wondering, what they're going to say. I got to show up 250%, do more because I took this time off, and I don't want a mother to have to go do that. Now, of course, there's always a balance to that, but that was one of my main focuses, definitely when starting my firm with staff and continue.
Awesome. I love that. If your leadership style was a theme song, what would it be and why?
Ooh, okay. All right. So I don't know that I could just have one.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So let me see. So I would say probably two, because I got to start one. And that's that I would say Encourage Yourself. And that's by Donald Lawrence and the Tri-City Singers. It's an older song, but as a leader, there are so many challenges. And there's some wins, there's some highs, and there's some lows. But in that song, it talks about encourage yourself, speak over yourself.
Yes, I love
that song. Yes, but then you already know. And I am definitely a spiritual, God-fearing person. And any decisions that I make, whether I'm making it for myself, my business, or my team, I'm going to seek God first, and I'm going to speak over myself. So the decisions that I make. And so when I do have all of these challenges, and strides when it comes to business and, our team and things like that, I am going to constantly encourage myself, because you have to have that confidence when you're leading. That team is dependent on you, and to be able to have that discernment to see the obstacles. What do we need to do? How can we be better? How can we go higher, continue to win? So one I would say would be definitely first and foremost to encourage yourself. And then the second one I would say is DJ Khaled, All I Do Is Win, because that's my motto. All I do is win. We are going to win, and I inspire and motivate my team. They know that, and that's kind of like both of those are my hype zone. I'm gonna have to encourage yourself, and then I'm gonna have all I do is win, and it gets us going. But I would say that those are the two leadership.
I love that. See, if all leaders to think like you, we'll be in a better place.
All right.
All right, so we're going to get into this game, and I want you to have fun with it. We're going to laugh a lot. We make some mistakes. It's okay. It's fun, all right?
All right, okay.
All right.
Okay.
So the focus of the game is going to be name that tune or name that lyric. So I'll start it off, and then you'll finish it, and then tell me the artist.
Okay.
All right. So first one, girls, you better watch out.
Some guys are only about. That's Lauryn Hill.
Yes. All right. So, how do you help women in the workplace set boundaries and protect their values?
So that's a good question. How do I help women set boundaries? One, by letting their no's be no's. If oftentimes with women, we say yes. We don't want to say no. we don't want to miss the opportunity. And so we stretch ourselves, till we are tired, till we can't go anymore. And you can't pour from an empty cup.
Sure.
And so having those boundaries, you need to know really what are the right opportunities to really see if there's value for this. Are you going to get the results? But then really understanding that you don't have to say yes to everything. There's a time and a season, for that. Now, don't get me wrong, especially, when you are growing, there's some times where you need to be there. You need to get that experience. You need to get the awareness behind it and the exposure to it. But you still have to evaluate it and see, like, if is this the right thing to you, and have those no's. With those boundaries, though, you need confidence to do that. You have to be confident to be able to say no. And so in order to have that confidence, though, know what you are doing. Be a continuous learner. So you can set those boundaries. You can set them with confidence. No one can sway you behind it. But then be a master at what you are doing as well. Get the experience. Be a continuous learner. And then make sure that you partner with someone that can hold you accountable to that.
Yes, I love that. And that's so true when you say set those boundaries and say no. I'm a firm believer of no, not today. I'm not doing it. So I love that. And the more people should really learn to say no.
Yeah.
And protect your peace.
Exactly. And not feel guilty about it. Because then, we will say no, then feel guilty about it. Oh, let me see what I could do. And then oftentimes people will try to push, their agenda. But you have to look at, okay, is this valuable for me? How is this going to impact me or the organization or my team or what have you, versus what their agenda is.
Okay, awesome. All right, so next one. All the women who are independent.
Wait, I know that's Destiny Child. Throw your hands up at me.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so question behind that. How can companies create real independence and ownership opportunities for women employees?
Okay. Real independence is really starting. If you're going to create real independence, is really starting your business, and you may have to bootstrap with doing that. You may have to barter some things when you're doing that. And when I'm, bartering, for anybody that doesn't know, hey, let's exchange services. I'll do this for you, you do this for me, to really have that true independence, with growing their organization. So establishing that early up front is important to be able to have the independence. And I would say also, especially early on, when we look at branding and things like that, your company is very important, but one of the most valuable things you can do is brand yourself. Have your company, but brand yourself, because you are honestly the face of oftentimes of the organization. Unless you're like a, historical Coca-Cola, Pepsi, that has the logos and things like that. But brand yourself as well as your organization. Let them know who you are. Be authentic with your independence, of growing your organization, establishing an organization. So those are some ways. And there was a second part of that question that you asked.
Well, yeah. So how can companies create real independence and ownership opportunities for women employees?
Yeah, and ownership opportunities. Now, when we talk about ownership opportunities for women employees, you can also allow some of your employees to have equity inside of your organization as well, so they can get some ownership. Now, of course, I would say definitely seek an attorney when you're doing that. But if you're building a business, or if you have a business and you want to create opportunities for them to be able to own a piece of that company, and oftentimes businesses that actually do that, they actually employees a lot more invested, because they own, this is a piece of the company that they're working for. So they are definitely vested into it. They're like, okay, look, I want to see the results. I want to see this, be great, because they actually own a piece of that pie. I actually know someone that has been very successful with doing that. And she has a lot of buy-in, from the team, because they have some equity inside of the company.
And it makes them do 100%, give them their all, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So next one, we're going to take it back a little old school. Free your mind.
And the rest will follow.
Yes. Okay. How do you encourage leadership to free thinking from biases? And you kind of answered this before. So what can you add on to that question?
I would also say, to add to that, probably some accountability, on that. Have an accountability, somebody that can hold you accountable. Just hold yourself accountable to what that is, because once you get it going and you really see the data from that, but you got to execute on that. So although you may drill down, you say, hey, I see the trends in here. with the data. I see that, a lot of the females are not receiving the top, increases, pay increases. I see that the females are not getting the top pay promotions. I see that the leave policies are not, they're geared towards, maybe males or maybe geared towards females. But at the end of the day, what are you doing about it? Because if you see it, we have to execute, because we have a lot of data. And I actually just had a call about this earlier today. This is a fantastic question. We are in an age right now where we have so much data at our hands, and we like data because we know the data, black and white, does not lie. But what are we doing with it? Because we can have all the data and I can know this, but if I'm not going to execute it, it's not going to change the organization. It's not going to have any value or produce any results to create any change from that. So hold yourself accountable, or get somebody inside the organization to hold you accountable. You see the results here. So my advice is always to leaders, and okay, what are we going to do about it? Let's make a change now. 3, 6, 9 months, down the line. Oh yeah, we're going to change. No, the time is now. How can we do this? Let's set it. And it may not be a immediate or instant approach. We may have to phase this in on how we're going to tackle this, but let's do it. Let's communicate, about it, because also when employees and the team see change, then they feel valued as well. Like, hey, you're really looking into this, and I know that I appreciate you for this. So let's see the change, but don't just have the data at your fingertips and do nothing with it. Then there's no real transformation in that.
Now, I have one more question with that one. Do you have a lot of women that come to you that have what they call like the negative thinking, that you have to get them back structured to thinking positive and thinking, what's the word, to the next level?
Yes. So yeah, there are women who will come. They have a lack of confidence. Sometimes there's imposter syndrome, where they're thinking negative, like I may not be equipped to do this. I don't think that I know enough to do this, when actually they have all the tools. And it's every level that you go to at sometimes, and I'm guilty of this myself. I'm like, oh, am I ready for this? Am I empowered, to do this? But a lot of times it's a mindset thing, that you have to constantly, speak. And when that's something somebody can take from you. The knowledge that you have, the experience that you have, been able to apply that, and then really see, if as long as you've done it and you see the transformation behind it, you can speak to that. But we got to get as women, because let me tell you something. And this is not just this is not just career wise, but men business owners, because I sit in a lot of rooms. Men may not know how to do it, but guess what? They're like, I'm going to talk like I know how to do it, and I'm going to figure it out and hire somebody to get it done. And as women, oftentimes we'll think just what you said, oh, negative. Well, I don't know. What if it doesn't work out? Men are not trying to figure out whether it's going. No, then they're saying it's going to work out. I'm just going to hire somebody to do it. I'm going to figure it out. And so as women, we have to know our power, and to stand on that as well too, to know that, hey, we are powerful. Most men that that are in leadership positions, their chief of staff or their assistant, their brain power is a female, because they know that we get stuff done. So we got to stand in that same power and stop thinking, okay, the imposter syndrome, stop thinking negative, stop thinking of what if. The what if is, if I go ahead and make this first step, guess what? I can make 2, 3, 4. God gonna carry me through that.
I love it. That's awesome. Yes.
Yeah, let me stop before I keep going to myself. Yes.
All right. So next question. Well, next song. Your love is a 1 in a million.
It goes on and on and on.
Yeah, right. Yes. All right. So how do you recognize and retain those 1 in a million employees?
By showing them that you value them. One thing is, if you show them that you value them, you're going to be able to have that retention. And now, in times like this, one thing, and of course, we know that, but the number one thing at the top is usually compensation. That's across the board, but it's not everything. It is not everything, because a lot of people also like the intrinsic piece of feeling appreciated, feeling, that, hey, I've done some great things and they see me. I am seen. I went above and beyond, and I know that they appreciate it. So actually showing the appreciation, recognizing them for what they've done. And especially a lot of people like that validation, when you have team meetings, talk about what that person has done, in front of other people. Also, flexible environments. COVID changed the game, honestly, a lot.
Yeah.
It changed the game. And people have gotten expectations that they want that flexibility. Now, I'm not saying it because, especially for certain organizations, you cannot work from home or it's hard to have a flexible schedule. Sometimes with education, or you're looking at a refinery plant because you have to have teams that are covered. But thinking outside of the box of where you can have that flexibility, those are ways that you can. Benefits is another way of doing that. But it's the small things, honestly, that people really appreciate, and that they value when it comes to retention.
Awesome. I like that. And especially telling people what they're doing great of. It's so many times that they like to tell you what you messed up on or what you're not doing right.
Yep.
But to tell me I did something great, that's awesome.
Absolutely. And not owning it, because sometimes a lot of people also, they get disappointed, employees, when someone may steal their idea and not give them that recognition for it. And I do not like that. When I doing training and coaching and things like that, I always tell leaders to make sure that you recognize. I tell my employees all the time, especially on other calls with clients or whatever. If it was one employee, I'm like, oh, they're outstanding, amazing. This was their idea. This is something that they do. And they're like, oh, and they absolutely love it. And they should get that recognition because, hey, they went above me on this was something, and I'm not going to try to own that. I am going to show them the recognition and appreciation that they did it, So yeah, that means a lot.
That's awesome. Welcome back to Let's Talk Keys. Now let's get back into it.
Let's do it.
What's the toughest challenge you face breaking barriers in corporate spaces?
So I would say being the youngest in the room, being the only Black female in the room, and most of the time, honestly, the only Black person in the room. In corporate America, I often was in rooms, honestly, especially at a young age, that I did not think that I would be able to break into, and I'm talking about with vice presidents and, presidents of the organization. And I would say breaking those barriers, because oftentimes, yes, I was in the room, but they didn't want to hear my voice. And so I had to break the barrier and build my confidence to let them know that, hey, I do have a voice and I'm here for a reason. And at first, I would say early on, I would just be quiet. And I remember one of the vice presidents, he said to me, you have a certain air about you, he's like, it's almost like a quiet confidence. You don't say much, but when you do have something to say, it's very stern, it's very meaningful, and you get down to business. And that was fine. But there were times also where I went out to say, I'm like, oh, no. But now I know that me breaking those barriers, because behind me after that, I started to see more Black women, young, get employed, and come into that corporate sector. But it definitely took a lot of advocating. It took a lot of building. It took a lot of speaking up, even when they didn't want to, hear what I had to say. But a lot of that has to come with that self-esteem and that self-confidence within. And like I said, also knowing your worth, and then knowing what you're doing as well, too, inside of the organization or business.
When you first started, did you get a lot of negative pushback when you started speaking up or saying what was on your mind, or knowing more than the other people thought you should know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Shut down. Like when I would try to say something, oh, no, we're not speaking on that. Oh, actually, yes, you are, so, and let me tell you why you are, and then showing the data to go along with that. But there was always like a fine line, because I didn't want to come across as the angry Black woman either, because although I would get that aggression, towards me, I tried to make sure I didn't meet it with aggression, but I met it with assertiveness. So not aggression, but assertiveness. But you're going to hear my voice and what I had to say. Like I said, data don't lie. So oftentimes when I would come, I would also have something to back up what I'm saying, although it would try to get pushed to the side. No. Let's go to the facts. So let's see here. So point proven. I love my Claire Huxtable, let the record show.
Love it.
So let the record show. So that's what ultimately I would do. And so it started building and creating a name behind it when I did speak, and the work that I did do, like, oh, yes, it carries weight because I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just saying this just to say, and my background is business and HR. And I even had situations where I really had to speak up when I saw things that were definitely inappropriate inside of the workplace, and tried to get Sean off. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. And these were, I was in a male dominated, industry. And they thought it was going to be okay. But I definitely had to do something about it.
I'll tell all women sometimes you have to get in that mirror and talk to yourself and get prepared for the meetings and the rooms that you're going in.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
I love that.
That's right.
Okay. Can you share a moment you felt most empowered in your career?
Most empowered in my career. When I started my business. When I started my business, when I said, you know what, I really ultimately I can do this. And let me say this, Chief of Minds is not my first business.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a staffing company before this, couple of years before, called Innovative Management Solutions. And it was a staffing company. And when I started it, I went and did all the things like, I enrolled in all of the associations. I went, at the time, magazines was big, and I went, took out ads and stuff like that. And I had a few clients, but I had that mentality, if you build it, they will come.
Yes.
And that's not the mentality. Like, you have to go and get it. And so I had the office, had all the things that set up. And like I said, a couple of clients, but I'm thinking like, oh, I done registered in the magazines and associations and, attended the conferences, but not really doing the network and doing the work behind it. And so that was back in 2009. I got pregnant with my second son. And so I was like, you know what? Business started drying up. The economy was bad. And so I went back to the workplace, and I was like, I would never do it again. Entrepreneurship, I'm not going to do it again. And my husband kept telling me, yes, you are, because it's in your blood.
Yeah.
And then years down, and I learned from the experience. And then God was like, it's your time. It's time now. It's your time. And so when the opportunity, presented itself, and I saw it very clear, like, God was like, now you are ready. And so that was one of the most proudest moments in my business career, when I was able to build that and really understand what was required to build, a successful business, and being able to walk away with clients already, under my belt.
I love that you said that, because so many times when we're not as successful as we want to be, we go back and we run to the workplace because, okay, well, I got a degree in this, so I have experience in this, and I know I can make the guaranteed money, when God has put that vision in your head and said, hey, this is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a drastic change in your life to get you to push forward to what you're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it may be, that at the end of the day, that may not have been the right time, for God. Because I want to say this, there's nothing wrong that in the event that you have to go back, to work, because you got to do what you got to do for, your family, things like that. But there's a time, and maybe that wasn't the time, or maybe, God was was using you and taking you through these things, so that way you can be ready. When he positions you, you can take off running, because you've been through a lot of these trials and tribulations and learning what it means to, run a business or start a business. So now when he positions you for this, oh baby, this journey, you're gonna walk it, very, whether it's a tight line or, you're gonna be boastful about it, he's gonna position you for that. And so I think there's a time and a season for everything when he positions you for it.
I love that. Another thing that you said that I really like is you said you had to do the work. So many times people think I'm gonna put it out there and people gonna come to me. But sometimes you have to go old school, that door knocking on doors.
Absolutely. That is where, and I was, I don't know, and I'm dating myself with the age, but you probably remember that commercial, like, if you build it, they will come. Yeah. So yeah, that was the thoughts in my head. Like, if you build it, they will come. Like, I'd have built it so they come. No. Like, you got to get out here and work for it. At the end of the day, it's not just you thinking that they're just going to come to you. You got to go out and get them. And so you got to have that. You have to be resilient. Yeah. You have to be able to face adversity, straight in the eyes and move forward. So
it's a saying that I love. And don't call me because I don't remember who told me this, but they said, if you knew you had to get 10 no's to get a yes, why don't you hurry up and get those 10 no's, because the yeses are coming.
That's right.
And so I had to start modeling my life behind it, especially like in real estate. Like, if I have to talk to 10 people and 10 of them going to tell me no, but that 11 person going to tell me yes, let's get this all the way.
Let's go ahead and get it.
And so many times we don't want to hear no. No shuts us down. Of course, nobody wants to hear no. But if 10 no's and then 11 going to be a yes,
then you're good. And see, the good thing about no's is, honestly, it helps you perfect whatever. You go back and you think, okay, I got this no. So why did I get this no? Is there learning experiences? Okay. And oftentimes, I mean, even when you get a no, I tell everybody, go back and ask why. Because sometimes it could be a small thing. It may have been in their budget. They may not be ready, what have you. But build on how can you tweak it to make it better? So that way, the next time, and it may be something that's bigger and greater, that because you can handle, like, you don't need all these small things, because all those 10 no's may be leading you up to this one big thing. And you may not have the time, to deal with that big thing and all of those small 10 no's. So that's the reason why. But take the feedback, learn from the no's, so that way you can do better, when it's time to get that yes. And hey, you can just duplicate that system all over again. Yep. So the no's is what get you to those great yeses. Yeah, they're all good learning experiences.
Yes, that's great. Okay, so the most powerful question of the day. What's one piece of advice you can give to young women that's looking at you now and want to follow in your shoes?
Don't give up. At the end of the day, don't give up, because there will be times when it's going to be hard. When you're going to get blocks and it's going to feel like you're getting all of these no's, and it's like, what's the reason, for it? But don't give up. Oftentimes when people give up, they're getting right to that point where it's time that things will start opening up, for you, and then they break. But don't do it. You have to be resilient, in this. Relationships are a lot. So make relationships, nurture those relationships. That's important, when starting a business or even building a career, because someone may be the next footstep to your next big career, the career move that you want to make. So building those relationships are important. A lot of people don't see the value in relationships, but checking in with people, going to lunch or what have you, building it. Get you a mentor, that you can talk to, someone that can show you the ropes. So that way it won't take you that long to learn the things that you want to learn. They can give you some feedback. They can give you some wisdom that they know, advice on that. Early on, I would say also, especially if you're building a business and you're branding yourself, put your systems in place early so you don't have to go back and tweak them. That's very important as well. So, and then also, continue, like I said, encourage yourself, speak over yourself, speak yourself, keep things positive in what you live, regardless of what may be negative that's coming around you, whatever, but surround yourself with people that are doing more than you. That you aspire to be, because you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. When you are, hey, it's time to move to the next level, and it's not that you leaving them behind, but hey, you can still bring them along with you as well when you come up, but surround yourself with other people that know more.
It's really important. And how important is mentorship?
Mentorship is very important. I keep mentors. I surround myself with mentors for me, that way I could brainstorm things, ask different questions, get advice. So it's very important. And it doesn't take you long. You don't have to make so many mistakes when you have the mentors, because they can give you the feedback. And oftentimes you may be afraid, but you never know if you don't ask. That's the one thing, especially when going in your career and building businesses, people are afraid to ask. The only thing they can tell you is yes or no. It's only one or two options, and to me, a no is just maybe it's not the right time. So you can tell me now. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just check back later. Let me know when it's a good time for you. And if you don't let me know, then I'll check back, a year or two or whatever. But it may not be a good time, but you cannot be afraid, to ask.
Yeah, and sometimes the no's end up being the best yeses. I call it the Urkel effect.
Yes.
So sometimes you just got to weigh them down.
There you go. That's right. You got to weigh them down. And eventually, hey, that may turn to that yes, that you need to be that outstanding mentor or your next career move. They may have a recommendation for you, that's going to be the, the position, that you've been wanting, your lifetime position.
Awesome. Well, it was such a pleasure having you here. This was awesome conversations. We're not going to leave. I do have something for you. So hold on.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. I appreciate you having me. It has been my pleasure.
Awesome. So in honor of women's equality and joining me on Let's Talk Keys podcast, I have a little gift for you.
Aw.
So this is our certificate.
Thank you.
Of appreciation. And here's a little token.
Oh.
Something Let's Talk Keys.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Let's Talk Keys podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the next episode. See you next time.
I hype me up, I gas me up, I hype me up, I gas me up, I hype me up, I gas me up. Take up spaces, got my room with this. Take up spaces, I got my room with this. I'm a trip for this, they cannot resist. The space is on abyss, take up spaces. I hype me up, I gas me up, I hype me up, I gas me up, I hype me up, I gas me up. take up spaces. Got my room with this, I'm a trip for this. This space is on the biz.